she really wanted to change this culture where the women didn't have any empowerment. For 9 years, I was home, and I feel so grateful that I got to do that. But after 9 years, I said, I'm just going crazy. I need to go out and work. Now,
Yeah.
I applaud women who stay home.
Mhm.
I think it's the most difficult job.
Mhm.
You are very dispensable at work, but in the lives of your kids, you're indispensable. The other thing I realized, I did a lot of introspection. And you know what realized about myself? That I'm a deeply passionate person. I
Mhm.
get very excited by a cause and being a voice for people who can't speak for themselves.
Right.
I have fallen in love with the mission of all the organizations that I've worked at. And I think that's the most energizing thing. What I love about the nonprofit world is that it's all about emotions. It's something so much bigger than you, a cause that's way bigger than you. I think what was really exciting to me in the role that I do
Mhm.
is that I'm able to really build a very strong connection with the beneficiaries,
Mhm.
with all the staff of the organization, and with the board of directors and the donors. Than that, when you give back to the community and you do something bigger than yourself,
Mhm.
that just is so supremely satisfying. And that's what I feel is so exciting about the nonprofit world. All my job then becomes
Mhm.
is finding their passion and connecting it to the mission of the organization.
So one thing it does come to my mind is, do you think capitalism and philanthropy go hand in hand, or are they orthogonal? And how did these organizations kind of deal with that?
And a lot of highly successful people, while they've achieved great success in their corporate world, they've not
Mhm.
been able to replicate that success in the nonprofit world just because the dynamics and the factors are so very different. Because these were all my heroes. I got to meet Gordon Moore. I got to interact with Andy Grove. I I actually got to meet Gordon Moore. So
Wow.
I mean, these were things that I just can't ever forget. You know, I got to meet Vinod Dham. I got to meet even Eric Schmidt. I got to see him. So I call myself the distributor of happiness.
Hi, viewers. My name is Upesh Jain. Greetings from the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm the host of the Exec Talk channel, a forum I started to talk to CEOs, executives, and other luminaries about their journeys and distill their experiences and learnings for our viewers' benefit. Today, we get to talk about a topic that is really near and dear to my heart, which is giving back to the community. The world has come a long way in addressing the major issues we faced in the past. We have eradicated smallpox, lifted millions out of poverty, and increased life expectancy around the globe. Yet, we are still faced with many challenges around the world. Income and wealth disparity has significantly increased in the current century. While 2 billion of the world's population enjoy a middle class or better existence with adequate resources and disposable income to cover their needs, over 5 billion have scant livelihoods and are still struggling to meet the many daily challenges. Despite its economic success, the US, like India, has pockets of underserved populations that are still struggling to achieve the American dream. There are several organizations that help bridge this gap today, and in that context, it is a great privilege to be able to talk to Rupal Dandia, Vice President of Development at the Deshpande Foundation, a Boston based but global organization that aims at a multi pronged approach to addressing the social dichotomy. After an MBA from San Jose State University, Rupal started work at Applied Materials as a financial analyst, but soon started soul searching for doing something with meaning. She stumbled upon a fundraising career and loved it. She had several development roles before this at the India Community Center, San Jose State University, the Computer History Museum, Red Cross, up until she became Vice President of Development at the India Community Center, and then moved as Vice President of Development at the Deshpande Foundation, where she currently holds this role. She believes it's been a fulfilling journey so far. Rupal has the unique skill set of creating the vision match between potential donors and the objectives of this organization. In her own words, she believes in helping the underprivileged, working with transformational and visionary philanthropic leaders to actually bring about palpable change. This is a non-trivial objective that requires a skill set and mindset where you care about making a difference, believing in the cause, and being genuine and honest in going about it. It requires the ability to connect to the human side to do better for the world, and also requires enduring patience and leadership skills to make people see what you or your organization see. Rupal truly represents the school of thought, and we will talk to her about her journey and how she culminated in this field of work. Rupal, I want to applaud you for the wonderful work you have done and continue to do, and extend a warm welcome to my channel.
Upesh, let me tell you, you've given such a beautiful introduction. I don't know how to thank you for that. I love the way you've prefaced it. It's really, I think, an honor for me to do the role that I'm doing. And as you said, I stumbled upon it, but I love the way you've just set the stage for our conversation. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Rupal, and it's well deserved. So, I can't think of another way I would have done it. So Rupal, in your formative years, we're told, our research tells us that you were a daddy's girl, who was very pampered and could get away with murder. But so what values did you learn at that time? What were your ambitions or goals at that time? And was your family supportive of those?
So you did some really good research, Upesh. It's very true. I am very grateful that I had the good fortune to have the most loving, doting parents, brother and sister, and who pampered me to health. I was the youngest of three, 7.5 years younger than my sister, and 5.5 years younger than my brother. And one tear from my eyes, and my dad would stop the world, and everybody would be there to make me smile again. So you would think a child like that would be thoroughly spoiled and, not care about the world. But I think the opposite happened. I felt that it was a responsibility when you have a privilege like that, and you've got to do something to help others. So it worked for me somehow. Luckily, my bhabhi and my jijaji were also extremely loving and caring. So I feel the lesson I learned was that unconditional love is the best gift that you can give to loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that my father was my role model, and it continues to be the role model. In fact, he's the role model of three of us.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandfather had passed away when he was young, and my father was young, and he had lost all his wealth. So my father was literally a self-made person, but he is the best PR person, the best negotiator, the best orator, and the best leader.
Mm-hmm.
And we all idolize him, and I've always wanted to emulate him.
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned was that, powerful people can change the world.
Mm-hmm.
They can, a leader doesn't need to be just authoritarian. A leader can be a facilitator. In fact, the best leaders listen to the people they are leading, and they take their inputs, and they try and come up with very just ways
Decisions,
of,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
solving problems. And so these were really wonderful ideas that I got exposed to. And like I said, when you have luxury and when you have privilege, it's a huge responsibility, and you can use it to do good for others. Now, um, uh, later on, I'll tell you a little bit about what I wanted to do.
Sure.
But this is what I feel answers your question, which
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think is these are the values I learned.
No, wonderful, Rupal. This is what I'm seeing is that there was unconditional love and privilege. So, which also kind of sometimes highlights the differences between the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah.
And then having the leadership uh, role model at home is something that you as a kid probably looked up to. So that's awesome. So how was your grade school and high school life? What kind of skills did you pick up at that time? You know, I mean,
So
in your formative years, a notch further.
yeah. So I went to MGD school, which is Maharani Gayatri Devi School. And if you know a little bit about Jaipur, it was
Hmm.
started by the Maharani Gayatri Devi.
Hmm.
And the whole idea was that, Rajasthan was a very, and continues to be a very conservative society where the women really had no privileges, they had no rights. And
Hmm.
Maharani Gayatri Devi being this amazingly beautiful woman.
Hmm.
Um, in fact, there was a portrait of hers in our assembly hall, and I just sit there admiring her. But that
Hmm.
was just her external beauty. But
Hmm.
her inner beauty was that she really wanted to change this culture where the women didn't have any empowerment.
Hmm.
And really, because she was a princess herself and a queen later,
Hmm.
all these different principalities around India, where the princesses were not going to school because they wanted to, just get them married.
Hmm.
So she basically went around getting those princesses to
Hmm.
attend school. So our school had a ton of princesses and a lot of girls
Hmm.
from high net worth schools. But because it was a girls' school, everybody felt more comfortable sending their daughters over there.
Hmm.
And her whole idea was that she wanted to uplift women. And that's the school I went to. And she would be there at all our school events. And she was just somebody we all really admired. She
Hmm.
played polo. We
Hmm.
had the best horses that, the polo horses would come for us to take rides on.
Hmm.
And we had a British principal. And it really changed the environment of Jaipur. Now, of course, there are a lot many English medium schools. This was the
Hmm.
first English medium school of its kind for girls. There's a boys' school. There were just two good schools at the time. I mean, there were a few others also, but these were the two main schools. Of course, with a school like that, there was also a lot of haughtiness and a lot of,
Yeah.
um, um, privilege, but they made sure you treat everybody with respect, which I feel was a beautiful value to pass on. And
Excellent.
I did end up getting, I started out not being good in school at all. I was, till third grade, I used to be last. I used to come last in my school. And then in fourth, I decided I want to be good. And I ended up getting a shield in ninth grade for topping in all the sections of ninth
Right.
grade, and ended up getting another shield for home science. Even though I didn't do any work at home, I was pretty good at cooking. So I got a ton of shields. I was the artist of my school. So every guest that would come to the school, I would make a card for them. I'd paint it
Hmm.
just because it was easy for me to do. And I would go receive the guest and give them the card. So all my schoolmates think of me as an artist, and now they're like, what happened? I mean, they can't even put their arms around the fact that I'm not painting anymore.
Well, but it's something you can keep for the rest of your life, right?
Yes, I hope to.
And
I
bring
hope
it
to.
out
I hope I
whenever you
have to
want.
go back.
So great. So you then went on to Maharani College, where you did economics honors and art. you got a gold medal for excellence in studies and extracurricular activities, won several awards at the annual intercollegiate competitions, loved comedy drama, and continued your love for art. So what was that experience like, and what did that do to your, thought process?
Well, it was fabulous. I mean, I was just getting, it was a 2-year degree course for me because I was in 12th grade. The other schools were till 11. So I went directly into second year and third year. And everything I take part in, I was getting awards in, which was so exciting. I did flower arrangement, I did pantomime, I did a comedy. I was just getting awards and everything. It was a very exciting time. But the good thing was I did economics honors.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the studious kids, and most of the time, in Maharani College,
Mm-hmm.
um, in Rajasthan, there weren't really very serious students, so I was kind of an anomaly. But
Right.
when I studied economics honors, what really bothered me was
Mm-hmm.
that India was doing really well, but the reason we couldn't do well was because of the population explosion.
Mm-hmm.
So every progress we'd make would not be able to make any dent in the economy
Mm-hmm.
because we were not able to control our population. And that really bothered me. I'm a diehard patriot, very patriotic person, and I really wanted India to do well. And it was hard for me to swallow that we weren't making progress.
I see. Yeah, but looks like you studied hard and got a good education at Maharani College and continued your love for the arts, including for drama and other activities. So then in 1994, you moved to the Silicon Valley, and uh, you did an MBA, and you worked as a financial analyst for 4 years in high tech, but found that work filled the day, but did not fulfill your core. What was missing? What aspects of your value system did it not address that made you think like that?
So basically, like I told you, I'll answer my question about what my family wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So my father was very keen I should become an IAS officer.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "You're really good in studies, just go and become an IAS officer." And, my father was surrounded, we had some very close family ties, and he
Mm-hmm.
really could visualize me as one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd been a leader in my school also, but it didn't excite me. So I fought with him tooth and nail. I said, no, I'm an artist. I'll be an artist. I'll be this. And I went and showed my work to all these artists. So at that point, when I actually, after my undergrad, I started doing my master's in India in art, and
Mm-hmm.
I was so miserable because there was no innovation, there was nothing new. And my best friend who did art
Mm-hmm.
had come to the US, and she was studying art,
Mm-hmm.
and she was doing all this new and innovative stuff, and I was stuck in
Mm-hmm.
Jaipur. And that's one thing my dad wouldn't allow. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
you'll reduce 5 years of my life if you leave Jaipur. So I said, okay, fine, I have to stay in Jaipur.
Mm-hmm.
Art wasn't exciting me. IS officer wasn't something that I thought. It was great, but I didn't want to do it. And so he said, okay, then, get married. I said, okay. And I was fortunate enough to get married to Sanjay,
Mm-hmm.
who's an engineer
Mm-hmm.
and who lived in the US. And US excited me. My sister was here in the US already. My brother was here in the US too. So I said, okay, yeah, US sounds good. And the best part is Sanjay had the maturity to deal with a person who is as pampered as me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was wonderful.
Yeah.
And my in-laws were, and they still are, my father-in-law passed away, but my
Mm-hmm.
mother-in-law, they were very loving and supportive and believed very much in education.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was thinking that, okay, maybe I'll come to the US and do art, they said, why don't you do MBA? I said, okay. that. And
Let's
by
give it
then
a shot. Yeah.
I dabbled into art, and I
Mhm.
really didn't think I could take it far. My best friend, though, is an artist and continuing to do really well. I
Mhm.
didn't think I'd be able to, because I also realized I'm an extrovert
Mhm.
and I need to be around people. And just art, when I did it with her and with my friends, I had a community, but over here, I wouldn't have that community. So I said, okay, let me do MBA. So I did
Mhm.
MBA at San Jose State University, had an absolute blast
Mhm.
um, doing that. And then I really wanted to work, and my in-laws were really supportive, never pressured me to have kids right away because I
Mhm.
said, I really want to work.
Mhm.
And I said, otherwise, I'll just lose touch with what I've studied. So I really wanted to work, and I got this opportunity to work at Applied Materials as a financial analyst for 4 years. Had a lot of fun because of a good group of friends. But it was, and later on, I discovered why there was
Mhm.
something lacking. After 4 years of working, I had my daughter, and I just told my manager, I called her up and I said, look, I want to leave. And she was a mentor to me, as somebody I connected with later. And really, really loved her. She taught me a lot. But I said, I really do need to leave. And I'm glad I did that because I also wanted to emulate my mother. My mother had been, has, is completely devoted to us kids.
Mhm.
And I wanted to give what my mother had given to me when I was growing up. And for 9 years, I was home, and I feel so grateful that I got to do that. Completely devoted to my daughter, Karina. And then my son was born 3 years later, Ishan. And I, I could not have missed those firsts of my kids. I couldn't let somebody else raise them.
Yeah.
Um, and so for 9 years, I was there, but I realized that even though I want to be like my mother, I, I could not stay home. Like I did that, and I'm very happy I did that. But after 9 years, I said, I'm just going crazy. I need to go out and work.
Yeah.
So um, that's what happened. And I knew it's not going to be in finance
Okay. So
because I
what
needed
was,
something
yeah,
that would be so meaningful that I could leave my kids and go for a bit.
right, right. In some ways, the MBA dovetailed well with your economics background,
Yeah.
and then you focused on family for a while. But what was missing, right? I mean, sure, you dedicated your time to family, but what do you think was missing when you had worked for those 4 years? And,
Ye-
how did you pivot to kind of address that?
So, so two, three things. And, that's why, you know, I feel it's a very, you need to do a lot of introspection. See, um, most men aren't expected to take care of family and their career at the same time. Now, it's great if they do it, but it's generally the women who end up doing it. And I had worked, so I knew what it was like. You do get recognition at work. You do uh, feel that you are kind of making a difference. Now, I applaud women who stay home.
Hmm.
I think it's the most difficult job to
Hmm.
do. Women who can stay home and just take care of their kids, they don't get the recognition that they deserve. They deserve a lot of recognition because staying at home, being a support to your kids, to your husband, to everybody else, um, and not, you don't get the kind of recognition you do when you're at work and do the same kind of work.
Hmm.
You'd be considered a hero at work if you did the kind of responsibilities you do at home. But unfortunately, it gets taken for granted. Now, some women are lucky, they stay at home and they get all the recognition, but most women don't. So the fact that they can do it, I feel it's the most difficult job in the world. And
Hmm.
it's kudos to them. I
Hmm.
realized I can't handle it. First, I didn't have the training to stay at home. I
Hmm.
grew up. not that we were the richest people by any means at all, but the kind of upbringing I had is to, and it happens in India, right?
You had a support system.
I had a support system. The thing is, I wasn't raised to do household work, so I didn't have the training, and I did not have the inclination. I just felt, oh my God, I can do so many other things. Now, of course, in America, you do it all, right? You take care of the house and everything. But it was really hard. I was trying my level best to be the best housewife and the best mother and keeping the house really clean, but I wasn't getting the excitement. Now, women who get the excitement and happiness from them, great for them. It wasn't giving me any happiness. I needed to go outside, but I only wanted to go part-time.
I see.
So finding that job outside in the corporate world was impossible. I'm not saying it's impossible. I think HP and a few other organizations had that back in 2006 or 2004, 2005. There weren't too many jobs. So I only wanted a part-time job, but I didn't know what I wanted. And the other thing is, I also felt horribly guilty about leaving my kids home. So I said, okay, I want to do a job that I feel really good about. And the other thing I realized, I did a lot of introspection. And you know what I realized about myself? That I'm a deeply passionate person. I get very excited by a cause and being a voice for people who can't speak for themselves.
Right.
And I really was looking for that, but I honestly didn't know where I'd find it. I was just kind of, okay, I think this is what I like. But the only thing I could think of was that, okay, I'm going to go to India, meet my parents, meet my in-laws, spend time with my kids, come back and start looking for a job. Naren Bakshi uncle reached out to me and he had been asking me to do something for Rana. He said, what do you want to do? I said, uncle, I don't want to go back to finance, but I need to do something. He said, okay, fine. Why don't I introduce? He was at that time the president of the board of directors at India Community Center. I said, okay, fine. Let me just introduce you to Talat Hassan, who's the chairman of the board of trustees, and see what you can do. So he introduced me to her and I sent her my resume and I told her I'd been home, and she talked to me for about an hour and she said, okay, come and work for us. We have a banquet coming up. Why don't you do something?
Yeah.
Now, the day I was supposed to, I interviewed everything got settled. I was going to start working for them on one day. And that day I got a terrible backache. I couldn't get up and I used to get a lot of backaches. So I said, okay, tell me something I can do while I am immobilized. They said, okay, Rupal, just go and get these auction items for this banquet that we are doing. I said, okay. I was immobilized. I just looked up 10 airlines and I started calling them up. And out of 10, I got them 2 round-trip tickets from Emirates. From Etihad, 2 round-trip tickets from Mexicana, 2 round-trip tickets from Southwest. And this is all from 1-800 numbers.
Wow.
And 2 I almost got from Air India and Jet Airways. And here I was so miserable. I said, I called 10, only these many have given. I thought I was a dismal failure. And they were like jumping with joy, saying that, how did you get it? I said, what do you mean? I didn't get so many. But they said, okay, fine. And they were happy with me. And I was then in charge of decoration. So I did the decoration and I met the co-founder, Anil Godvani, over there. He said, who are you? And I said, okay. So Naren introduced me and he said, okay, I want to talk to you before you go to India. I have something in mind. He said, I want you to do fundraising. And I said, what is fundraising? I have no idea.
They helped you discover a skill that you didn't know about.
I had no clue. They said, you can do fundraising. I said, I don't know what it is. They said, before you go to India, we want to offer you a job. I said, okay. I said, only condition is that you're not going to talk to me, please, after 2 p.m. because my kids come home. I
Mhm.
have to do homework with them.
Mhm.
And they agreed. And that is how I started at India
So
Community
all
Center.
conditions were met
All
in terms
conditions
of
were met.
part-time work, in terms of the passion in you, in terms of leveraging your core skill set, and all those things,
I
right?
had no
The-
clue, Upesh. I said, literally, why do you think I can do fundraising? I have no idea.
that's very it seems like happenstance, but looks like in some ways it was the lining of the stars, and that's a lesson for people, that you should never cease to try, and something, or one door closes, the other opens. So that's great. So also, you said you stayed home for a while. So what advice would you give to young mothers who are at this juncture in their life, based upon your own experiences?
Yeah, it's really I think a difficult time for couples. And I'm very happy to see now, with all the progress that's happened, it's no longer considered the role of just the woman to take care of the kids. Guys can be equally involved, and they want to be,
Mhm.
which I think is beautiful. So I think it's a decision that, whether, I mean, if they want to have, first of all, both of them working, both of them, having kids,
Mhm.
these are all decisions you have to make. But I think it's really important to understand what works for your family, because it's a different answer for each family. And it's a very individualistic answer. What's right for me is not going to be right for you. What values do you hold dear? What vision you have for yourself, for each other? But a few things I feel are very, very important, and that is, um, see, sometimes your career will take a backseat, and sometimes, unfortunately, the kids will. But um, in the sense that you always have to remember one thing, that this time with your kids, now that my kids are older, is very short. It's
Mhm.
only 18 years.
Right.
And while you may not be, um, you're very dispensable at work, but in the lives of your kids, you're indispensable.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's very important to keep these things in mind, that try and be kind, give unconditional love to your kids, give them the right values. Sometimes it's okay if you don't give them time. It's the quality of time, not the quantity of time.
Mhm.
And it's really important to be happy. It's really important for the husband and the wife to be happy. It's really important that we don't put undue pressures on ourselves. Women are hypercritical of themselves. Everything has to be perfect. House has to be perfect. They have to look perfect. The
Mhm.
kids have to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. Now, that is not humanly possible. A few people can do it. I'm not saying that they can't. There are
Mhm.
very, very few people who can. But it's really important to know that, and have a discussion about it, that what are the things you're willing to give up. Because what can't change is, if you've decided to have kids, you have to give them 100% of your time, and like quality time, not again quantity of time, quality time. And make sure that they are getting the right values, because that's again really, really important. Because if you brought the kids in this world, you do want to make sure that they have right values. So I think that's really important. But if sometimes you have to maybe compromise on not socializing, so those are very important discussions to have. Be kind to yourself, be loving to yourself. It's okay if your house is a little dirty. I
Mhm.
know it's hard, because we all want to show that we are perfect, but you know, every family, I think, has to decide what are the compromises that they'll make. And these are really good discussions to have, because you, both husband and wife need to be happy.
Mhm.
You can't be overstressed. And,
Mhm.
this time with the kids is really short. At that time, you don't think it is. But looking back, I'd love to get that time back.
Right.
And I wish I were a little less freaked out about things.
Mhm.
If you've given your kids a lot of love, and not being overly harsh,
Mhm.
where they are kind of trying to hide things from you, because, be a little liberal, let the kids be, because they're also in another country.
Mhm.
You're not in India and they're not going to be perfect. So, in the sense that you have to know where you're going to give.
Mhm.
So, we all have to do a lot of introspection and just know what our core values are and let go of the other things. It's a very difficult time when you both have aggressive jobs, aggressive goals. I was only part-time, but I was many times working 60 hours,
Yeah.
because it's like not the amount of pay that mattered.
Mhm.
If I'm committed to do something, I'm going to do the best that I can. And there were so many times I was doing 60 hours, right? But my husband was also traveling. So all these juggles become hard, but then you have to really know what you're giving up for what,
Right. So, where to draw the line?
where to draw the line.
And it's a tall order.
It's a very tall order.
And uh, I think listening to you, the way I would sum this up is it's okay to be perfectly imperfect.
Yes. Yes.
So,
And it's a very hard thing to do, Pesh, because we all have a certain image that we want to maintain. And sometimes the price that you pay for that image is not worth it.
mhm,
It's
right.
really not worth it. It comes at a really heavy cost.
Mhm,
And I hope my daughter, and the kids in our friend circle all embrace that our happiness, I want them, my kids, to prioritize their happiness, the happiness of their kids, over any image that you'd want to portray to anybody.
so be true to yourself.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah. So the uh, inner self and the outer self need to align, basically.
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
Okay. Uh, so you started at ICC, or India Community Center. You told us about how you got that first break, but then you went through a series of organizations like San Jose State University, the Computer History Museum. Then you came back as vice president of development at ICC, and now for the last year and a half, couple years, you've been at the Deshpande Foundation. So tell us a little bit about these experiences. What was kind of common and what was different about your experiences at these places? And what is the essence of the work you do that is so fulfilling now?
Well, let me give you a little peek of what happened when I joined ICC. So I
Mm-hmm,
told you about my dad
mm-hmm,
being um, this mega person in my life,
mm-hmm,
um, and I always wanted to emulate him.
mm-hmm.
And you know what? At India Community Center, I really could,
Oh,
because he had been adopted like a son by the chief minister of Rajasthan,
mm-hmm,
and then he later on became the governor of Karnataka,
mm-hmm,
and his name was Sukhadia Saab.
mm-hmm,
And so my dad had um, just a lot of connectivity. Like, till today, he's the most dynamic person I've ever seen.
mm-hmm,
He's on every board you can think of. So
mm-hmm,
obviously I'm not like him, in the
mm-hmm,
sense, I'm not even 1,000th of what he is, but I got to play my dad a little
mm-hmm,
bit, because I was, Anil Godwani actually trained me in fundraising.
mm-hmm,
Gautam Godwani helped me. Talat Hassan also helped me in fundraising, because I was interacting with the movers and shakers in the community, and they were all so nice to me. So, one thing that I have to tell you, fundraising,
mm-hmm,
what do people think when you say fundraising? They think, okay, you could be begging for money. So
mm-hmm,
my dad was like, my daughter, who I've raised with so much love, is she going to beg for money? I
mm-hmm,
said, Papa, that's not what's happening at all.
mm-hmm,
These people, all the friends of Anil and Tala, they were so wonderfully loving to me. And so they literally treated me like their daughter. Gopi auntie, who's Anil and Gautam's mother, became like my American mother. Like she literally was so loving to me. All the friends of Anil and Talat who were writing these big checks were like so nice to me. And I just had such a blast. I said, because they cared. Our seniors, and I have to tell you one thing, I have fallen in love with the mission of all the organizations that I've worked at. And I think that's the most energizing thing. Like and that's one of the reasons I went back to ICC, is because the seniors who were our main beneficiaries of India Community Center, like we do a lot of stuff, but I think what I love about India Community Center is that I 100% believe, Upesh, if it weren't for India Community Center, our seniors would not be as well adjusted. Our ICC seniors, they're the happiest seniors I've ever seen, because they're living their life to the fullest. They are living for their passions. They've raised their kids, right? You should see them. They have a spring in their step. They have a twinkle in their eye, and they are just happy. They're dancing. Some of our seniors are 80 plus and they're dancing on the stage, and they're dancing to fast music. Like one of them's video has gone viral in India. I'm not kidding. So they are alive. They are doing plays. They're dancing. And I'll tell you a little bit, I'll actually tell you now, when I came back to ICC, Anil wouldn't take no for an answer. He's like, Rupal, I was doing well at Red Cross, and he's like, no, Rupal, you're coming back. 3 times I said no to him, and he was like, no, you're coming back. I said, okay, I'm coming back. I finally joined, and we had the pandemic. And I was talking to this one a son who's extremely successful, and he's like, Rupal, my mother's going to go back to India. You have to do something. I said, okay, what do we do? He said, can you do Zoom? I said, okay, how do I use it? I don't have an account. So he set us up on the account. We started a Zoom program for our seniors. And Upesh, I'm not kidding. That is the whole reason why our seniors did not go into a depression. Because they are all, unlike India, they're all, a lot of them are living alone at home. Some are living with their kids, but still their exposure wasn't there. And they were able to stay connected via Zoom. And eventually, first it started out being 2-3 days a week, and then it was 5 days a week. And I could, without a doubt, say that we have done the biggest service to India Community Center, and we were able to raise $1 million. That was really important. I'm so glad I was there, because I have the satisfaction of doing something for ICC that launched me into a whole new career, right? And we were able to talk to some major donors and show them the impact the donation had. So $1 million when our revenue was zero, completely zero. It really was something. Of course, I worked with the CEO, Raj Desai, and Talat Hassan, and Gautam Godwani, and Anil to make that happen. And of course, a whole lot of other major donors. I think what was really exciting to me in the role that I do is that I'm able to really build a very strong connection with the beneficiaries, with all the staff of the organization, and with the board of directors and the donors. And that to me is invaluable. I realize I'm a very emotional person, and emotions, I feel, make you bigger than what you can physically do. I feel emotions are critical to anything that you do. And what I love about the nonprofit world is that it's all about emotions. It's something so much bigger than you, a cause that's way bigger than you. Now, everybody should live for themselves. You should always meet your goals. I believe in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The self-actualization is really important. But there is something even more powerful than that. When you give back to the community and you do something bigger than yourself, that just is so supremely satisfying. And that's what I feel is so exciting about the nonprofit world. It's very selfless. And I think that's what attracted me to go back to San Jose State University. What I love about the professors, all the professors, they're just living to give a better life to their students.
Right. So that's what I was going to say. What I am taking out of your, of this conversation is that the money that you raise, you can see being put to work and really making a difference in people's lives. And
Yeah.
that is playing out right in front of you. So
Yeah.
that
I mean,
feedback loop, yeah.
yeah. When I asked for scholarships for the students at San Jose State, I can't tell you how beautiful that was. Because what I would do, I always have to close the gap, right? The loop. If
Mhm.
somebody is given a donation, I want them to know the impact. So at
Mhm.
San Jose State, I was able to identify students who would get the scholarship and have the students meet the donor.
Wow.
My work was done, Upesh. The
Mhm.
donors would fall in love with these kids
Right.
because, I mean, these were the brightest. And the beauty of San Jose State
Mhm.
is that these are kids who wouldn't have had opportunities otherwise,
Yeah.
right? I mean, kids who are going to Stanford,
Mhm.
um, there are, of course, people who a lot of go on scholarships also. But, the privileged ones are able to go on their own. San Jose State students are the ones who may not be the brightest, but they're extremely hardworking. And the beauty is that they roll up their sleeves and work and have no entitlement. And getting scholarships for them was fabulous. I got connected with the dean of the College of Business, was fabulous.
Mhm.
I connected with some amazing donors, like Don Lucas, who had given us $10 million.
Wow.
I idolized him.
Mhm.
And I got to know these people.
Mhm.
And the most beautiful thing that happened when I was at San Jose State was that Don was so upset the day I resigned that he wouldn't talk to me. Like every organization that I've left, Upesh, I have had the fortune of loving everybody. And I
Yeah.
have to go through this process of saying bye to each of my donors, all of the beneficiaries, all the staff.
Yeah.
Everybody I was able to say bye to, but the person who wouldn't talk to me was Don Lucas.
Mhm.
And I told David, I'm so upset. What do I do? But then later on, when they called me back for an event,
Mhm.
um, and this was almost 6 months later. So
Mhm.
Don put his arm around me and he said, okay, you are an SJSU Spartan. I forgive you for leaving. And I said, thank God.
Wow.
I got that satisfaction because, you know, you form these really close bonds with these people because they love the institution. That's the only way you get them to give funds, right? I mean, they are giving it because they care. And all my job then becomes
Mhm.
is finding their passion and connecting it to the mission of the organization. So
Right.
I'm never begging for money because the donors
Absolutely.
need
You're
you.
the glue or the bridge.
I'm the connector. I
Yeah.
call myself the distributor of happiness. I literally do. Because all I have to do is, the donors need the organization as much as the organization needs them. Because the donors need something meaningful to happen with those funds.
Mhm.
And if the organization can make that impact, but the most important thing is you have to give them the satisfaction of knowing what their funding has done. Because without that,
They
a lot
don't
of
have any
organizations,
visibility. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of organizations, you end up losing the donors.
Right.
So,
So a very crucial role that you played in all these organizations, and
yeah.
so thanks for sharing that. And so one thing it does come to my mind is, do you think capitalism and philanthropy go hand in hand, or are they orthogonal? And how did these organizations kind of deal with that aspect of it?
So without capitalism, there would be no philanthropy, right? Because um, in a communist society, everything is egalitarian and you wouldn't really need to have philanthropy. The beauty of capitalism, and of course, there are a lot of negatives, as we all know,
Mhm.
but the beauty is that you're able to with the right environment, become really successful based on your ability. And then you're able to hopefully have the good heart to give back,
Right.
right? And of course, there might be some people who might not want to give back, and all the power to them, because who am I to tell them what to do?
Mhm.
But if they choose to give back,
Mhm.
my job then becomes to find what their passion is.
Right.
And if their passion aligns with the mission of the organization, to
Right.
try and, create that bridge and make it a win-win. So I'm always looking for a win-win. And there's so many times, and there shouldn't be any arm twisting ever.
Right. Right. No, I think you bring up a good point that it's a full circle, if you will, that innovation feeds capitalism, which in turn feeds philanthropy, which in turn creates individuals or helps individuals who can innovate. And so, in some sense, it's a perpetual motion machine, and the cycle goes on. So uh, that's a great answer, Rupal.
Yeah. And one thing, Upesh, I just have to tell you, like, each organization I've met with, amazing people. Like, I got to meet Gordon Bell,
Mhm.
Len Shustek, Gardner Henry, and Deshpande and Jayashree Deshpande and Raju Reddy. I mean, I can't say enough things about them.
Right. Right.
So one of the things that I just discovered, I was working on this big proposal,
Mhm.
and we had to do some massive deep insights to write this proposal, because the funder we are working with, has a lot of questions in which we have to go really deep. But
Mhm.
as a result of that, um, I have I've always admired Desh and Jayashree and Raju,
Mhm.
but I had this epiphany, which is like, oh my God, I mean, how brilliant is
Mhm.
this person? Both Desh, Jayashree, and Raju,
Mhm.
is that, you know, um, they have been very successful in their business. But I tell you, running a nonprofit is way more difficult than running a business.
Mhm.
And a lot of highly successful people, while they've achieved great success in their corporate world, they've not
Mhm.
been able to replicate that success in the nonprofit world, just because the dynamics and the factors are so very different.
Right.
But
And there's a lot more emotion involved,
there's a lot more emotion. And the thing is, the pay scales aren't quite the same. But that doesn't mean that the people aren't committed.
Right.
Um, and you have extremely committed people, but resource scarceness is way bigger deal.
Mhm.
Um, and, in the nonprofit world than in the for-profit world. But I mean, what I have found, and I told Desh and Jayashree and Raju that I'm going to create a slide on this, is that the way they have navigated the nonprofit world
Mhm.
and had successes one after the other in the nonprofit world, by really keeping focus on impact
Mhm.
and doing innovation and experimentation using philanthropic dollars,
Right.
and using, once the idea is scaled,
Mhm.
once the idea is proven, then getting the customer feedback looped in by getting the beneficiaries to pay for it,
Mhm.
then you are able to scale it at a level which is unfathomable
Unparalleled.
in the
Yeah.
normal
Mhm.
world.
Right.
And they have been able to do this from, and each nonprofit they've utilized, Desh and Jayashree have utilized a different um, idea to make it
Right.
unimaginably successful.
Yeah.
And
I
Raju was
was.
able to
Yeah.
join.
I was looking at the foundation's website, and I saw there's an innovation arm at MIT, and then there's obviously other philanthropic arms for helping needy people. So, um, So that's great. Anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, I mean,
Regarding?
that is the joy, Upesh, that I'm sometimes able to, thanks to my nonprofit work, able to work with really visionary people who I'd never have access to otherwise, you know.
Mhm,
I got to talk to Jim Morgan. So when I worked at Applied Materials,
mhm,
we were all scared of Jim because we were
mhm,
told that he'd just come down and ask you to recite the mission of the organization. So
mhm,
when I joined Computer History Museum, he was one of our donors, and I was charged with asking him
mhm,
to donate again. I was
mhm,
like, oh my God, I'm going to reach out to Jim Morgan. So I
mhm,
wrote to him and, introduced myself. And then after a little bit, I told him how I admired him, how I was at Applied Materials. Then my
mhm,
next email was that, Jim, you normally give this donation around this time. This year you haven't given. Would you
mhm,
give? And there's pin drop silence from him. So I said,
mhm,
oh my God, did I offend him? So I
mhm,
wrote back to him. I said, Jim, I'm so sorry. Did I offend you? He said, not at all, Rupal. The check is coming. I said, oh my God, Jim.
mhm.
I was jumping with joy because
Okay.
these were all my heroes. I got to meet Gordon Moore. I got to interact with Andy Grove. I, I actually got to meet Gordon Moore. So,
Wow.
I mean, these were things that I just can't ever forget. I got to meet Vinod Dham. I got to meet even Eric Schmidt. I got to see him. So
Yeah.
none of this I would have been able to do. And definitely the kind of impact that I was able to help during Harvey and Irma.
Mhm,
In when I joined Red Cross, they had seven level disasters, which was the highest number of disasters they'd ever had in their entire history.
mhm,
And I was able to fundraise for that. So the
mhm,
fact that I was able to do my little part to help people when they were hurting the most,
mhm,
Irma, Harvey, Maria, um, hurricanes, and then all the wildfires. I personally got to see the devastation the Napa fires had wreaked havoc,
mhm,
the havoc that they had wreaked on the community. I got to see it firsthand. And the fact that I was able to do my very little minuscule part
mhm,
to make that happen, um, it just means a lot. So I really feel privileged and honored that I have this opportunity to, make some change happen, help people when they're hurting. I love the work that we are doing, because I always wanted to give back to India and economics. I told you I did economics. It really bothered me that India was not as successful as it could be. Well,
mhm,
through the Deshpande Foundation and through the Kakatiya Sandbox that Raju Reddy is heading, and I'm supporting both the Hubli Sandbox as well as Raju Reddy's Kakatiya Sandbox, I'm
mhm,
able to help the rural India, which honestly is something I feel so honored that I'm able to do. I love the farmers,
mhm,
the rural kids who don't have education.
mhm,
Um, they are now able to transform their lives. The women doing entrepreneurship, the people trying to do startups in rural India. We were able to get a 20 crore commitment from Kanwal Rekhi to set up a rural entrepreneurship center in Telangana,
like
which is
micro entrepreneurship.
it's an entrepreneurship program, and it's going to be a game changer. And we are developing that program. We've discovered this school, Triple IT Basar, which is even more difficult to get into than IITs and BITS. And it's something not even heard about. But we have a collaboration with them. So I am just so excited. I always wanted to do something for India and something for rural India because I'd seen my dad transform. I wish I had more time. I'd love to tell you my dad's story.
Mhm,
He inspired me. He was the CEO of the cement factory in Savai Madhopur, and there's he would do random checks and get the workers to work. When most of them were slacking on the job, and because he'd do these rounds anytime, drop in, they had to be on high alert. So they didn't want him as the CEO, and they wanted him gone. So they started this rally against him. Having those mashals in their hands,
mhm,
and one of them caught fire, one person. And so my dad, we all were cloistered inside the house, and he came out and took this person to the hospital.
Mhm.
And that was the day, and they all became his devotees, because he didn't care about his own safety and he cared more about the safety of the worker. And then he improved the living conditions of all the workers, and they worship him till today. And honestly, that's something I wrote about it in my MBA paper. That was something I really, really was moved by. I was a little kid when that happened,
Yeah.
but I feel that, okay, my dad is on 100 boards, and I'm at least doing a little bit of what he did,
Right.
by giving back to the rural community and helping them by working with donors who care, right? Getting them to make um, some huge commitments to the to changing the lives of rural India. And unless you have people like Deshpande, Jayashree Deshpande, Raju Reddy, Fanindra Sama, who's the founder of Red Bus and a co-founder of the Kakatiya Sandbox, unless you have these people so devoted to these non-profit causes where they are involved at a very intimate level, you're not going to be able to bring about those changes. And
Right.
when people like that get involved, the donors have a lot of confidence. My job is just to get the donors to see the beauty of what they are doing and then to join hands with us, right? I mean, because one person can't do it. Just these 4 people can't do it alone, right? Your impact is going to be so much smaller. But our charter is to really take this to the rest of India. So while we are based in Karnataka and Telangana. Now we are moving to Maharashtra and Rajasthan, which I'm really thrilled about because I get to also do something in Rajasthan.
Right.
I'd be very happy doing it in other states too, but definitely I'm really, really happy that we are doing it in Rajasthan. So unless you have people like that who take on these really big problems and really come up with extremely smart, innovative ways to stretch the philanthropic dollars, you're not going to be able to make impact in India. And luckily, there are a lot of professional philanthropists in India, is what they're called. A lot of people now, the HNI in India, are suddenly realizing the huge responsibility they have, and they're starting to give more. And you'll see a huge rise in philanthropy of individual giving in India. It's already very advanced in America, especially among the Indian Americans, but you're going to see a big increase even in India. But it's a very exciting phase because the government can't do it alone, and government has its own problems, right? But India deserves, and I think, we deserve to, for all of us Indian Americans, I think if we give back, and we should also give to America. I'm a big proponent of that. Definitely we should, because this is this economy and this culture has made us successful. So definitely we should give to America too, but we should give back to our home country also. Because, earlier India did suffer because of the brain drain that happened, right? So I think it's really important to give to both. What I would like to say to people is that, giving back, definitely live your life to the fullest. Whatever dreams you have, fulfill them. But the kind of energy you get when you give back to people, thinking beyond your needs, helping the people who are who not as advantaged as you,
Right.
the joy that you get is just unthinkable. I mean, you can't even imagine the joy that you are going to get out of that. Now, everybody has to choose what's right for them. Everybody has a certain, so just because I'm doing rural doesn't mean you do rural. Like, choose what floats your boat. Choose something, get connected with a cause, because the joy that you will get will be limitless.
Absolutely. Well said. Yeah. Thanks. That was a fairly detailed glimpse into, the workings of the organization. So Rupal, you know, what do you like to do when you're not working? Right? Seems like this is a pretty, uh, difficult task. Um, you know, as a working mother, as a spouse, what is your advice to women in general? So, I'd like to know what your thoughts are on that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love being a wife, a mother, a daughter,
Mhm.
daughter-in-law, sister, sister-in-law, friend.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm also a very obsessive personality. So when I'm working, I get very obsessed. And it's I also know that while this work can be all consuming, like you can almost forget about yourself. And I'm really glad that I have a very strong family circle and a friend circle that
Mhm.
helps me draw that boundary, because I could very easily lose myself.
Right.
And so it's for a happy life. And I had this discussion, I'll tell you a little bit. So when I went to Kakatiya Sandbox, the
Mhm.
CEO was working full time. They weren't eating.
Mhm.
And I was forcing, I had become, because the CEO of Kakatiya Sandbox is a 28-year-old, a young person who's really passionate,
Mhm.
wasn't eating. I put food in front of him, he wouldn't eat. And then he was almost like fainting. And I got really mad at him. I said, no, you have to eat. And luckily, I always carry food with me, and I gave it to him. And then I went and complained about him to the founders. I said, he's not eating, and that's not good. And, you
Mhm.
know, so I was very strict with them, and they promised me that this time around they're going to eat. and,
Yeah.
and also, this is the second event. So, but this work can be all consuming, and it's really important to draw boundaries. And it's really important to have a balanced life. Whatever you do, don't let the passion consume you, because, you know,
The
I
sky's the
do
limit.
feel
Yeah.
that there are good employees and better employees, and you should do your best to keep the good employees. But no employee is going to stay at an organization longer than their lifespan. Okay, whatever.
Right.
So you are dispensable, but you're not dispensable for your family. So you've got to be around for them. And
Mhm.
it's really important to have a good balance. So work, try and limit the number of hours you're working, and make sure that you give time to your family and friends, because on your deathbed, I'm told, you will remember definitely the good work you've done, but you'll also remember the time you've spent with family and friends. So really prioritize that. So make sure you spend quality time with all the loved ones in your family.
Mhm.
Uh, you shouldn't ever live with regrets. I don't believe in that. Um, really give time to everybody who's important to you. Work, but don't let work become the only thing that you do. It's something I have to keep reminding myself every day.
But at least you realize it, right?
Yes.
Executing on it is a different ball game. But as a matter of fact, in some of the book recommendations on my channel, we have a book called The Five Regrets of the Dying, and
Mm.
that's by Bronnie Ware, who was an Australian nurse who was a palliative care nurse and
Mm.
used to spend uh, time the last
I know
three
about this
months,
book.
yeah, and with people, and so it's she saw certain trends in people who she took care of. So if that also puts things in perspective,
And
but
that's literally the reason why I'm saying what I am, because I
yeah,
read the
exactly.
book.
That's why it struck a bell with me,
Yeah.
So, um, uh, Rupal, any other message to the community in general and to someone who is new to the community giving? And after that, I'll kind of conclude with a rapid fire round for you. So
Okay.
I'll let you voice your thoughts, and then we'll get into that.
Sure. I mean, if anybody wants to join community work, if anybody wants to start a nonprofit, let me go there. A
Mhm.
lot of people I come across, extremely successful businessmen who've launched, come into a lot of wealth after an IPO, or basically their company got bought, and either they become serial entrepreneurs and they donate to a nonprofit, or they want to start their own nonprofit.
Mhm.
And definitely some people should start nonprofits,
Mhm.
but also know that there are thousands of nonprofits out there.
Okay.
And starting and running a nonprofit is not easy. It's easier to raise funds in the beginning. It's easier to find a good group of people, but continuing to fundraise, which is what happens at almost all nonprofits, you've got to because you're going to keep expanding the work that you do. So you'll have some revenue stream, but you'll always have to fundraise.
Mhm.
Fundraising is not, I mean, it's not the easiest thing to do. It is hard. And sometimes it's almost you're better off not starting a nonprofit, finding the closest nonprofit and joining hands with them
Mhm.
and working together, because running a nonprofit is really hard, and
Um,
finding the right set of people. I have, you know, you really need very, very committed people, and there are those committed people out there, but it really hurts me when a lot of them don't get paid as well as they should. And it really hurts me when they're not, because I feel that that shouldn't be the price you pay to be in the nonprofit world. Luckily, there are the professional philanthropists, are
mhm.
the philanthropists who've been doing a lot of philanthropy. They're getting the idea. They're finally understanding that building capacity of a nonprofit is as important as doing the philanthropic work.
Good.
Like, the social workers shouldn't pay the price of being in the nonprofit sector just because they care for the people that they're serving. And capacity development is really important, giving them the tools, the technology, and which is what I love about the Deshpande Foundation. They are using technology to really enable the people to do the best work that they can do. So there has to be some investment in the people. I've always fought for it. Generally, the leadership still gets compensated well, but the staff doesn't, and that's a sore point for me. And luckily, I don't have to prove it too much to the donors. They're getting it,
Mhm.
because capacity building is really, really important,
Mhm.
as is the work that we are doing. And both deserve philanthropic support. So when people say that 100% of the funds are going just for the cause, I understand that sentiment, and people feel that they are being very wise with asking for that kind of due diligence from a nonprofit, but they don't realize the disservice that's happening unknowingly to the staff at that organization,
Mhm.
because they are cutting corners just to make that benefit happen. And that's not a long-term sustainable strategy.
Sure.
So that is something I'm a big proponent of, because I feel that the quality of work is as good as the for-profit world. So why shouldn't the compensation be? Like I said, leadership usually gets the compensation. Sometimes it's the lower staff that don't, and I really feel bad for that. But good organizations, I'm very happy to have worked at many of them
Mhm.
where they have taken care of everything, and I feel really happy about.
That's a good point. Yeah, a lot of people probably don't know about it, right? So,
Yeah. And the mindset is that, oh, 100, there's this sense of pride that, oh, 100% is going to the cause. Well, 100% is going, and you feel satisfied, and they don't know any better, right? There has to be a lot of education that needs to happen to donors, which many times people are afraid to do.
mhm.
But, and you have to do it lovingly. It's not as if that, people, that's what they demand, and sometimes you feel that's what you need to explain. But I think it's really important to give the education to the donors, because they're new to this. They don't know. And, most of them have run organizations. So if you just explain it to them, they'd get it,
Right.
and I think we are making a lot of strides in that area.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that, Drupal. I'd like to get into a rapid fire round with you. I just put
Okay.
together a few questions. So I'll go through these pretty quickly. So
Okay.
just a quick answer would be
Sure.
good. Who's your favorite leader?
Oprah.
Oh, okay.
I love Oprah.
What's your favorite dessert?
Rasmalai.
Okay. And what's the best part of your day? I mean,
When I can reflect or be grateful.
I see. And what part of the day is that?
It could be any time, morning,
So it's
sometimes
not
afternoon, sometimes it's
chronological. It's just when you're
whenever.
doing that. Yeah. Okay. Favorite book?
I have several: Gone with the Wind, Great Expectations, Agony and Ecstasy, Little Women, Woman of Substance, a
Nice.
lot.
Yeah.
Lately,
Favorite
I'm not
book?
reading as much. I hope to.
Okay. Favorite quote?
Uh, you know, I just made up a quote.
Okay.
Ultimate high is when you change someone's life for the better, and
Mhm.
it is addictive.
Nice. Nice. Uh, Most peaceful
Doing
activity that
art,
brings you peace.
doing art, or reading a book.
Okay. What makes you cry?
I can't see children suffering.
Okay. What makes you smile?
Children, I just laugh when I'm around my kids. Kids, family, kids, my nieces, nephews. I'm just really happy, and when I see a life that's transformed.
Nice. Biggest weakness?
Food.
Okay. And biggest strength?
Patience, respect for everyone, and dogged persistence. I don't take no for an answer, but I'm very respectful.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. That was well answered. Uh, so, Rupal, I'd like to really thank you for taking this time. And it was educational for me personally. And, the insights are just tremendous. As humans, we are sometimes so caught up on the corporate side of things that we cease to think about the social aspect of things. So thank you for highlighting that side of life, and I'd like to wish you well and a lot of luck for your future endeavors, and keep up the good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Upesh. You have been amazing in just helping me go down the memory lane. And I loved that you had done a little bit of study about Deshpande Foundation, about, philanthropy in general, because it's a new field. When I entered, there were barely any Indian Americans. So it's not a field that most people are familiar with. So I really am grateful to you for taking the time out to study it a little bit.
Thank you. And one of my good friends, Anand Baria, is also with the Deshpande Foundation.
He's
Uh,
the CEO.
yeah. So if you get a chance, say hi to him. And
I will.
it's been a while. But thank you so much, and
Thank you.
really appreciate your time.
Sure. Thank you so much, Upesh. It's been a joy for me to be part of this. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.